Welcome to Performance Car Lounge, where each week we speak with enthusiasts selling their beloved performance cars. This week, we speak with the seller of a 1992 VP HSV GTS. Welcome everybody to the podcast. This week, we're very lucky to have Rick from Obsessive Car Detailing joining us again. You might remember Rick from the podcast we did on the VNSS Group A prototype Commodore, which was one of the most popular podcasts I've done. And we're very lucky to have him back again this week to chat about a VP GTS Commodore that he's looking after the sale of. Welcome back, Rick.
Hi, how you going, Stuart?
Yeah, very well. Look, I note that VN Group A SS prototype is still for sale. It hasn't sold yet.
It has not sold yet. No, no.
Well, it's certainly a fascinating car and a very rare car. And I note in just the last week, we had a Group A VN sell on the Collecting Cars auction.
Yes, build number 123, which is the Tooheys 1000 V8.
Yeah, so that's a pretty special car. That's one of the one of two promo cars that were given away as a prize by Tooheys, isn't it?
Correct. Yes, Bathurst giveaway. You sent in a token from a beer carton, and you win one for you and one for your mate. So you nominated a mate to give to one, and a gentleman in New South Wales won it and gave one to his son-in-law.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And how much did that car sell for?
Without buyer's premium, 190.5.
Yeah. Okay. So if you add the buyer's premium to that sale price, you're probably looking at 200K or so.
Yeah, comfortably. Yeah, I think it's about 13%. So yeah.
Oh, definitely. So that's pretty close to the price of the prototype Group A.
Yeah. I feel even in this market, it's well priced. It's not pie in the sky.
Yeah. Can you remind us what the price on that one is again?
230.
Yeah. Okay. So that's very close. So
yeah,
if anyone's interested, that opportunity is still available. And if you haven't listened to that podcast, go and check it out. It's a fascinating car, that prototype, one of the most interesting cars I've researched. And if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, just be aware that you can actually listen to these podcasts on your favorite streaming platform, wherever you get your podcasts. So if you prefer to listen to these podcasts while you drive to work or on your commute, you can also find them on any of those streaming platforms. So, Rick, can you tell us a little bit about the VP GTS that you're looking after the sale of now?
Yeah, no problem. It's 92 anthracite grey. This car is fairly well known. It used to be have number plates Magic 8. It was from Victoria. The original owner modified it extensively for show purposes. He was a member of the HSV Owners Club. He did a lot of the show circuit, was in magazines back in the day, and most of its notoriety coming from it, it got twin throttle bodies fitted fairly early on, I think in about 94, and it used to have so GTSs have the blue, the S on the decal. This car had yellow inserts, and I think even had yellow wheels at one point.
Yeah, okay. The body kit on these GTSs were pretty much a carryover from the VN Group A, but there was a couple of differences, wasn't there?
So the wing and the grille, and then a slight difference just in the depth of the top edge of the bumper, because VP headlights tend to be a bit more upright and a VN is a little bit more laid over. So it's kind of a little bit more fiberglass. But essentially the grille and the wing, the bottom half is identical.
Yeah, and that grille and wing sort of, I think they were carried over from the Senator. Is that right?
Yeah, all your Senators and 5,000 eyes got the same wing.
And this is also a limited production run as well. I think they produced these cars in 1992 from sort of September to December, and they made 130 of these cars. Is that right?
Yes, and I would probably say the reason for these cars existing, because it was the first reincarnation of the GTS moniker since what would be the H series cars. So it was the first time in 20 plus years that they brought it back. And a lot of these cars are Group A leftovers, essentially. If you remember correctly, there's 302 Group A's, 500 was the initial prospective amount that they built. These cars have the Group A 4-bolt main block, so they're essentially a Group A motor, but with the original bunch of bananas restricted inlet manifold.
And this car, out of the 130, is anthracite grey. From my research, I think most of them came in anthracite grey. I think 78 of them came in that colour. They're also offered in Alaskan white. There was 27 of those, and you could also get it in Marinello red, and there's 25 of those. And they're HSV specific paint colours, aren't they?
No.
No. Okay.
No. So what you'll find is all those colours are SS colours.
Ah, I see. Right.
Yeah, so all your VPSSs, apart from two outliers that I'm aware of, there was one Canterbury blue, one car only, and there was one dark green car that was a one-off. But other than that, additionally, there was some very rare, what they call it, cardinal reds. I've only ever seen two, I think. So they're outliers, but your common three colours are the three VP GTS colours.
Yeah, okay, I see. And there were a few options that were available with the car. And I mean, you could get a sunroof, which this car doesn't have. And I think you could get an optional fire extinguisher even. But this one does have the Devonish trim. Can you tell us about that?
Devonish trim is essentially the Group A seats, but in cloth and velour. And if you got the Devonish option, you additionally got the padded velour console, which is a nice touch. It really kind of adds a lot to the interior of those padded consoles. And then I've worked on, I think, 5 of these, one of every colour and a couple of red ones. And there seems to be a little bit of a discrepancy in the binnacles on these cars. Some are black and then some are the original trim colour. And it seems to be hit and miss what you get. The colour-coded ones look better, but quite a few of them come with black for some reason.
That sort of trim material that's on the seats, I actually really like it. I think it's a very
nice.
Yeah, but we don't see it in cars these days.
Everything's leather now. Yeah, I enjoy a car that has a bespoke trim. Like if you remember back to the VKs had their herringbone, and it's now iconic. Even your VT GTSs, how they had the small logo repeated everywhere.
Yeah,
I quite enjoy a car that has a one-off trim for the car, special for the car, never to be repeated. It's a lot more, stands the test of time better and becomes more of an icon and tends to actually wear better. A lot of people don't take care of leather properly, so it goes hard, it cracks, and ultimately will need replacing. Whereas the cloth, if you take reasonably good care of it, it's good to go for quite a while.
Is the cloth difficult to repair if you do manage to rip it or stain it or, somehow?
If you stain it, unless you ink or something really hardcore, you'll be all right. If you rip it, you can do sometimes you can do like a micro repair. If not, you can just replace a panel. Then it's a question of if the car's old and faded, you've got brand new trim and it doesn't colour match because of that. Kind of been down this road with a couple of customers before with restoring XR8s. Yeah, sometimes it's wiser to do the whole centre bolster or the whole sides just to make it all match. But this car, there's no sun bleaching. It's mint condition trim. Like one of the nicest I've worked on. I've worked on a car with half the kilometres of this one that came out of a collection, and this interior is 10 times better. It's near on perfect.
I always buy a car based on the condition of it rather than the kilometres. How many kilometres has this car done?
104.
Oh, so it's still a very, very low kilometre car.
Look,
it's age.
People love a car that's got 5-digit kilometres. This is just nudging over it, but it's extremely well cared for. It's basically had a series of owners that knew what they had, loved the car, and it's definitely never spent a night outside by the look of it.
Definitely doted on.
Yeah.
And with the throttle bodies that have been put on it, you couldn't keep the bonnet standard and put those throttle bodies on. So it does have the scoop on there, doesn't it?
It does. So it actually has two bonnets. It's got one with a genuine Group A scoop, and then one that's trimmed very, very neatly around so the twin throttle just pokes out, which I like. The first time I worked on this car, 9-10 years ago, it had that bar on it. And despite having to, put a bit of plastic over it and tape it up to not collect too much water in the engine bay when you wash it, aside from that, it looks sensational. And it's a little bit more discreet. Like, you can almost glance at the car and not see it, but then when you see it, you're rewarded with seeing this little twin throttle poking through.
Yeah, that's cool. And when the VP GTS came out, in my opinion, it seemed to be a more luxurious take on the VN Group A. Would you agree with that?
Wholly and solely because they only made them an auto.
Yeah.
So every single one of them is an auto. That confuses me to this day. Maybe they didn't have a good relationship with ZF after the Group A.
So they're running the HSV Turbo 700 auto box?
Correct. Yeah, which is just going to be shift mapped, same as like a SV 5000 box. So I have a little bit higher shift points, a little bit more line pressure over your standard SS V8 box.
The other thing that probably adds a little bit to the comfort is that it came with independent rear suspension as well, I think.
Yeah, well, the VP was the first model to get IRS, and I've owned 7 of them. And I like the way they drive. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. And the other thing I love about this car is it comes with the 3-spoke Momo steering wheel, and that's not an airbag wheel, is it?
That's almost the last of them. So some of your VRs, they came with a not a Momo. I can't remember off the top of my head. They switched brands at that point, but it's the last of the Momos in HSVs as well. Yeah, and one of the last of the airbags.
It's a good steering wheel. I really like it, and again, sort of contributing to a bit more of the luxury of the car. I guess it was one of the first ones to come with speed-sensitive variable rate power steering as well.
Yeah, and you can feel that when you drive them, for sure. They firm up as you progress in speed, and by the time you get to like 100, 110, they're quite a stiff turn, which is good. It gives you more road feel.
So yeah, it's a car that's in stunning condition. It's coming with some spares, I think, and I think you say in the ad that comes with some magazines, photos, receipts, trophy books, sort of all the history that you'd want.
Yeah, the car had been at HSV Nationals and a lot of HSV owners club events. Multiple trophy winner. It'd been featured in, I think it was Street Commodores back in the day. I think twice. I believe that the car was in a TV show briefly in like one episode of, say, Home and Away. Then there's some photos of it on set. There's a cool bit of history.
Yeah, that is an interesting nugget of info. I don't know if you can confirm this or not. This is one for the real anoraks out there. But the wheel caps on the VP GTS differentiated from the cars before it because they don't have the 2 red rings around the outside.
That's correct. Yeah, it's a smaller centre bore at the very edge of the wheel, so they're much smaller compared to, say, your VR Club Sport, which is the same wheel. It's a different badge size hole.
That is definitely a fact for all the car nerds like myself out there. So we've got limited edition VP GTS, low Ks, excellent condition with the twin throttle bodies, past show car with a lot of history, all the documentation. How much is the owner looking to sell the car for?
$98,000 for that one.
Oh, sub 100,000. That's a bargain in today's market.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's I feel it's a reasonably good value car. I've had a look at other VP GTSs that have been on the market. Recently, I had a customer ask me to go look at one that was at Gray's Auctions, and that was an anthracite one. And yeah, no comparison condition-wise. This car's would suit a fussy owner. So, and I know current owner is not super fussed with selling it. He'd like to move it on, but he's not going to drop his pants on it. So, yeah, it just suits the right person.
If you are interested in finding out more about this car or want to make contact with Rick, head to performancecarlounge.com.au. I'll have all of the photos of the car on the website and some information about the car, as well as a link to the ad so you can get in contact with Rick and find out more information if you are interested. So Rick is quite well renowned in the
car washing circuit.
car washing circuit. Okay. Um, so Rick owns Obsessive Car Detailing, and while I've got you, Rick, I thought I'd pick your brain. I have
Sure.
just purchased at auction in Japan a 2008 R35 GTR in.
Very nice.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm so excited. I can't wait for it to get here. I've actually owned one of them before. I had one of the JDM ones before Nissan brought them into the country
Oh,
back in
wow. Yeah.
2008, and I was using it on track a lot, and it was big and heavy and
Mm.
fast and churns through petrol brakes and tires like nothing. But
Drive past everything but a fuel station.
yeah. The other thing that I found that it did was that it made my driving look a lot better than it was in reality, and I was going quicker
Yep.
around track than people with more skill than me. So I ended up moving to a 996 Porsche GT3, and that
Yeah.
taught me very quickly that I wasn't anywhere near as good as the times we're reflecting.
Yeah, those cars will do you a lot of favors and make anyone quick. Really, they're fantastic cars. I mean, and the technology as far as the stability management, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can pump them around fast and safely.
Yeah, and they talk about them sort of being like driving a video game, and I understand what people mean by
Yeah,
that, but there's still a mechanical experience. You still get a lot of feedback from the car. It's still got hydraulic steering. It's you get all the clunks and whirs from the transaxle gearbox. So I'm looking forward to
yeah,
experiencing all of that again. And as I sit here and wait for it while it's on a boat, I've been thinking with that paint that I perhaps should perform some paint correction and ceramic coat it. And I was thinking about doing it myself. And I just thought I'd get your opinion on that.
sure. Being a JDM car, they expect a lot of fallout. These cars tend to have a lot of dirt built up in the nooks and crannies just because of the environment there. There's a lot of salt there and a lot of soot in the air. So every time I get a JDM import car, they're always got quite the build up around every nook and cranny where people don't really clean them properly. And you'll be at it with a lot of cotton wool tips for quite a while. As far as paint correction goes, have you done it before?
Never.
Okay. You realise, so you said this was silver. This is that liquid 3-layer silver, I believe.
Yeah,
So it's a black base coat silver with the clear on top.
I think in Australia it was a $5,000 option back in the day.
Yeah, and I can understand why, because of the process. That you might want to find a practice car to do before doing a 3-layer car, just because the consequence on that car, if say you burn through on an edge, you're likely to have to paint the whole side, and then still slightly run the risk of having a colour match issue. It might even require a full respray to just repair one panel on that car.
Right. Okay.
I know that seems like the professional's trying to scare you off it. That's legitimate for that type of paint. Even if I was doing it, that's a consequence of a stuff up on it. So there are places around that can teach you how to do paint correction. Starting on a R35 GDR, probably might want to start on something cheaper,
Yeah.
less consequential.
I have read a few horror stories of people who have bumped a bumper or a panel, and the paint match process on that is not easy. So,
Yes.
yeah, I'd definitely be quite wary about trusting myself with that process when I've never done it before. So, how much should I budget? And what would you, if you had bought this car, what would you recommend that I do, and what should I budget?
Okay. If say this was my car or a customer coming to me, full decontamination, so basically go through it, clean the engine bay, high pressure the underneath, inside the wheel arches, get all the kind of dirt and stank off it from the previous owner, do a full interior detail, shampoo because there's a half leather, half cloth from memory, most of those. So give it a shampoo, shout out some new mats if not shampoo the old ones if they're haven't got holes worn through them, which all Japanese cars seem to have. And then clay bar, paint analyze. So I'd be going around actually checking the thickness, seeing how much the car's original paint, and then start the process of paint correcting and fine-tuning what kind of compound and pad combo works. This is why, unfortunately, for someone wanting to DIY, you're not going to have the myriad of pads and compounds and different types of machines, rotaries, force DAs, the clutch DAs. There's a lot that goes into it. Most people will tend to go buy a cheap DA polisher, maybe a 3-inch, maybe a 6-inch. They'll buy a couple of pads. They're not going to have the arsenal of equipment that I'd have, say, to attack any kind of problem that comes my way and do it proficiently.
What sort of budget should I put aside for paint correction and this process? And would you recommend ceramic coating it as well?
Budget-wise, it will depend on what you're aiming for. If you're coming to say myself, I would say a paint correction on a car like that, let's say it hasn't had one in its life, so it's got to acquire the build-up of defects, swirls, and contaminants on the top coat. Probably looking at 20 to 25 hours of paint correction. I would budget it around 2,500 to 3,000. Would you ceramic coat? It's a good option. You've obviously you start from bottom end is like your waxes, your polymer sealants, spray ceramics. All limited kind of timelines of how long they'll be proficiently working. Some just a couple of weeks, some a few months. When you actually get a hard coating ceramic or glass coating, you can get ones that are good for a year, a budget one, or you can get ones that are 3 to 5. So a premium glass coating, always a good option. And then kind of your next tier is PPF, paint protection film, which these days I'm doing more and more of. It is the ultimate option. The film technology now, the kind of old adage that you can see the film and adds way too much texture. They're flat now. They'll actually make a paint job that has a little bit of orange peel look flatter. They've got 10-year warranties and they're self-healing. So you can scratch them and put them out in the sun. They'll heal, pour some hot water on it, put a heat gun on it, and it will heal itself up.
That sounds expensive. How much do I need to budget for this self-healing PPF?
On a 35 GDR, it depends. So there's options. You can just do everyone in any type of car, I can look at the car and kind of see a high wear area, and it's usually self-inflicted, so coming off the wheels. Behind the wheels is the first area that cops it in a car, other than stone chips when when you tailgate people and get a lot on the freeway or something. But self-inflicted behind the wheels, I do cars where it can be as little as 2 to 3 to 400, depending on how much surface area there is, to custom template and put some protection just behind the wheels. And then you step up into like track pack or full front, anywhere from kind of 2 to 3,000, and then full car, every square inch of the exterior, 8,000 plus, depending on the size of the car and the complexity. I'm currently doing a Land Rover Defender. It's got 23 linear meters of PPF required. It's a monster. There's about 80 pieces to it. Something like that, you're well over 10 grand.
Yeah.
It's got a 10-year warranty.
So if you're keeping the car for a considerable period of time, that amortized over the life of the PPF, it's not that expensive.
No, a lot of people will mention it in the ad when they sell it. It is a kind of an extra. I should also mention the new technology in ceramic in PPF films. They actually have a ceramic coat built into the top layer. So they used to, once upon a time, even I would PPF a car and then put a ceramic coat on the top. So you had the hydrophobic effect and, much less washing, car looked cleaner more often. Now that's actually built into the films. So very little maintenance required too.
Well, that's worth thinking about. Unfortunately for me, I'm located in Brisbane and you're over in WA. So if someone is lucky enough to be close to you, how do they get in contact with you, Rick, if they're interested in having their car detailed or protected? I'm
on Facebook, OCD Obsessive Car Detailing. I'm on Instagram. I have a website, obsessivecardetailing.com.au. Yeah, they're all good ways. get a hold of me. I'm pretty sure I'm on Google. Just type in OCD and I come up.
And I understand you're pretty popular. There's a bit of a waiting list to get in to see you.
I'm fortunate to have a really great client base of return clients. So I get to continue working for great people that I've met over the years and some of my customers, maybe they're just the type that want maintenance on the car that they've bought. Some of them flip, just have one car, but flip it every 3 to 5 years and I'll see them again. And then some crazy clients who have, 15 to 20 cars.
Yeah, I'd like to be one of those crazy clients. That's where I'd like
so
to
would I. So would I. Yeah. Some of them, I'm vicariously living the dream through them. They make some magnificent purchases, and I can't help but get excited for some of them. It's nice. I've even been fortunate enough to help curate collections for a couple of customers where they appreciate my opinion on stuff, and I'll have a look, do a paint analysis, and just kind of exteriorly look over a car and make sure it hasn't had any crashes or repairs or blow-ins paint-wise. Just help them figure out if it's the car for them.
And I understand that your dream car is to work on and probably to own is a Lamborghini Countach. So I'd like you to guarantee me that if you do get to work on one of those, that you'll come onto the podcast and chat about that.
More than happy to. There's not many over here, though. Obviously, anything can be hidden in a garage, but as far as what I've seen out and about, maybe 2 or 3. And I don't know if I ever get to work on them. I know one of them, I met the gentleman, definitely needs a paint correction. He's got my card, but that's many years ago, so I haven't heard from him.
Well, I think it's a work of art. It's a beautiful car, but to drive, I fear that it could be a case of you should never meet your heroes. I imagine that compared to modern cars, it might be somewhat agricultural.
I've definitely heard that, and that's kind of obvious. You look at them; they're not going to be comfortable to sit in. I don't think they're very well suited for anyone kind of over 5'8". Otherwise, they're crippled by the time you've taken it for a half-hour drive. I still just from a paint correction perspective, there's a lot of square edges and angles. They're quite complex, so I kind of am interested in the challenge of working on one. I've done an F40 before, and that was probably the most challenging car I've ever had to do. And they're famously known to have very little paint to cut on weight. The Countach won't be quite that stressful. But
you can see through on an F40. You can see the carbon weave through the paint, can't you, in places?
Yeah, that dictates the value on them, if you can see the weave or not. And a lot of silly owners complained that they thought paint jobs were a bit average, so they would force the factory to repaint them. And those cars are now devalued because you can't see the carbon weave, which then obviously people's minds race of, it's been resprayed, probably had a crash, so that's why it's been repainted. The one of my customers, his one, is the nicest spec you can get as far as it's the Euro non-cat, non-adjust with the Perspex race windows version. And his has got, I think it's got 10,000 kilometres on it. And it's all original paint. It is beautiful.
That's got to be worth a couple $1 million worth of car there?
I think in Aussie money, almost 4.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Rick. Once again, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. You're a wealth of information on so many cars, and especially the Aussie muscle cars. And thank you so much for coming on.
No worries, Stuart. Thank you for having me. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Till next time.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Rick.
No worries. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for joining us at Performance Car Lounge. If you have a performance car with an interesting story that you are selling, contact us at performancecarlounge.com.au.